18 days to go. Woo! Nobody panic. Okay, gosh. Oh, it's crazy. I just remember the last couple of weeks leading up to Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, I remember feeling this strange mixture of fear and excitement. I was excited, obviously, to see the movie, but fearful because it was the first movie. We didn't have, we weren't exactly sure what, the overall vision was going to be or how close to the book it was going to be. We weren't entirely certain. This one, we have a good idea of the overall vision of the series, at least, as Andrew Adamson sees it. And, then, of course, there was sort of the, oh my gosh, after 4 years, this is it, And so Prince Caspian is just, I'm just pure excited to see it. I'm not like, obviously I really want them to do well, and I'm going to be heartbroken if it sucks. But I'm just kind of content to sit back and enjoy it right now. I'm not, stressing out over it, even though I'm obviously, if it sucks, that I would be pretty heartbroken. But I'm just kind of content to sit back and enjoy these last few weeks right now, even though I really want to see it. But some movie surfer clips that show more of Reepy Cheap, and what a cool clip they've shown too. I'd read about this introduction of Reepy Cheap in a storybook, I think it was, and there's Telmarines are chasing Caspian. There seems to be a lot of scenes in this movie where the Telmarines kind of come out of nowhere and they go, oh, it seems like there's the scene with it happens to Susan at some point in the woods. Lucy gets pursued. And I've got Caspian here. So there's a lot of scenes where it's just like Telmarines out of nowhere. But they were pursuing Caspian, and I think Truffle Hunter, I believe, is according to the storybook, I think it said he was supposed to be in this scene too somewhere. But one by one, the Telmarine soldiers start falling, and they're like, "Oh, what's going on?" And then one by one they fall. Then the Reapy Chief jumps out and kind of knocks Caspian down, and is standing on his chest. And I'm not sure if the storybook seems to indicate that Reapy Cheap thinks that Caspian is a bad guy. I mean, because in the scene, Caspian's still wearing his Telmarine armor, so it does, make sense that Reapy Cheap might mistake him. And then Truffle Hunter or someone calls him off and says, "Oh no, he's a good guy." But I think it's a really cool way to introduce Reapy Cheap in the movie. In the book, of course, it's just they're sort of giving Caspian kind of this a tour basically, and and there's, oh, well, here's Reapy Cheap, and it's not even that big of a scene, really. But it seems appropriate to me that since now we know, of course, that he becomes a really important character in Voyage of the Dawn Treader, and of course, it's become a huge fan favorite since the book was released. I can't. It just wouldn't feel right. Maybe you could say, oh, they shouldn't do this. They should introduce him like it is in the book, but. And that makes sense, but it just wouldn't feel right to introduce such a memorable character in children's literature that way, and so I think it makes sense to have like a big, big grand introduction for him, and I think this is a cool way to do it. I like it because first off, it introduces him in a way where he's using his size to take it using his size to his advantage, where he's able to kind of run through the ferns without being seen. And when I first saw that, I kind of got this, not really the image in my head, but I kind of imagined it's like a sort of a Jaws kind of seeing that dun 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 dun, and just coming across, and you're not really sure what it is. And I like sort of the anticlimax of it, of like, oh my gosh, the Telmarine soldier's falling. You got to picture something like it's kind of scary, like you can see the expression on Caspian's face, like, oh, what the heck is it? He's probably picturing something really scary, and out jumps a mouse, like observing Caspian says, "You are a mouse." And I think I like Ben Barnes' performance there. I think there's this mixture of sort of surprise and disappointment, and I was like, so it's a surprise of, oh, it's a mouse, it's a talking mouse. Obviously, he's never seen one before, so it's a big deal. It's the myth becoming real again, and then there's this fear of like this giant mouse on me, like what the heck, and then there's surprise, like after all that, it's just a mouse, and so I think Ben Barnes' line, just because of how obvious it is, you are a mouse, kind of captures all those things. As for Reapy Chief's reply, he says, I was hoping for something a bit more original. The line I think I'm okay with. It doesn't sound very Reapy Chief-ish. I think the line is probably fine. It's the way Izzard delivers it that I don't like as much. But I like the idea that he seems to be. I think it's once again about his size. He was probably expecting Caspian to say, like, oh, it's just you, you're only a couple feet tall, like, oh, you're a little mouse, or make some kind of joke about that. and all Caspian can say is, "You are a mouse." It's like, oh, like I think Reep almost looks like he's disappointed that Caspian didn't come up with something better to poke fun at his size, and I think that's a really funny way to introduce, and you just kind of show that he's used to this. He gets jokes about his size all the time, and he won't put up with them, and I think it's a cool way to introduce the character. The delivery of the line I thought didn't sound very Reepicheepish, and I think I don't know, just the way it was done didn't sound quite as noble as I imagined. Reepicheep being Reepicheep. I always imagine, of course, he delivers everything just a little bit over dramatic, but it only sounds over dramatic in this context because he's a mouse. That's the only reason. You put it in the a big knight in shining armor, have him say it, and it wouldn't sound so over dramatic. But because it's a mouse, it sounds like too much. But so that's one of the things I always like about Reepicheep as a character, and I'm not sure they quite capture it here. But we've only heard a few lines of Reepicheep, and every time we hear a clip of Eddie Izzard's voice, I'm not as sure. Like the first time, I was like, I don't know. Then the second time we heard something, I really liked it. Then the next time, I'm not really sure. I still think the animation looks quite nice. As far as I like when he does that flip and his tail kind of goes and spins around. And I also think it's cool. I noticed that his tail is gripping the handle of his sword when he lands. So I wonder if he's going to pull out his sword with his tail, which I think would be kind of appropriate. The tail being the honor and glory of a mouse, and Reepicheep, using his sword to take it out. That'd be kind of a cool image. And I'm definitely hoping this doesn't. Andrew Adamson said as much himself, and I think it was in the official companion. Andrew Adamson talked about he didn't want it to be too much like Puss in Boots, and seeing this clip here, you can see why, and how it could look like that. And so hopefully it'll come across differently. But overall, I'm pretty encouraged with where they're going with Reepicheep. I'm not. I still think Eddie Izzard's going to do a good job, but I'm not as confident. The animation also I think looks very nice, and it's a cool scene. I think it's a funny moment, and I think it's gonna be a real stand up into your moment. Like when I was watching it, I was like, oh, it's Reepicheep. I know he's coming. It just builds up the hype, of it's Reepicheep, and then they show up like, yeah. So I think even if no one else does, I'm gonna stand and cheer in theaters for this. And then there's another movie surfer clip where it shows it's the first time we've really seen the antagonism that the filmmakers have been talking a lot, and the actors have been talking a lot about in interviews. Of Peter says, it's basically his plan for the night raid. We have to strike them before they strike us. The Caspian says that's impossible. No one has ever taken that castle, even though the castle's not even been around that long. We know from the book, and so that seems kind of like a dumb statement. Then Peter says there's always a first time, and it occurred to me as I was recording the podcast. Actually, when Narnia Whipperillion was talking, that there is some basis for this. There's more basis for this in the book than I thought. As far as the first thing Peter says to Aslan when he meets him is, "Oh, I'm sorry, I've been leading them wrong the whole time," and so there is some basis. And Peter is, he doesn't believe that Lucy sees Aslan, or he does, but he kind of doesn't. And so there is some basis for this in the book. The difference is in the book, I never found Peter annoying. I felt like, okay, maybe he's not making great decisions, but he's doing his best. He's just making some mistakes. When I saw the clip, I kind of wanted to slap Peter, and I never felt that way at all in the book, even when he was making mistakes. And in Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, I think Susan was the annoying one. I'm afraid what's going to happen in this one is Peter's going to be the annoying one, and so there might be some basis for this in the book, but they've carried it. It sounds like they've carried it to the part where the character is completely unlikable, and that's what I don't like. And so overall, encouraged by these clips. We'll just have to see how it plays in the end. Also, a couple little bits of news. Mark Johnson says that they're looking at directors for Silver Chair. They've got a list. I don't know if they really are. I think he's just saying this because there's been some ridiculous rumor going around that Disney's going to quit after Voyage of the Dawn Treader. I mean, basically, all this silly report said was, if the movies stop making money, Disney's going to stop making them. Well, duh. We've always known that. That's obvious. And people said, oh, they're going to sub it, they're Dawn Treader. And now Mark Johnson just basically, he's not even really, I mean, obviously they must have, there isn't even anything all that newsworthy here, really. He's just saying, yeah, we're thinking about directors. Well, duh, someone's going to direct it, And so he just said that, I think, to dispel all those, put away all those rumors about Disney stopping, which was a really smart move on his part. I'd be pretty surprised if Silverchair didn't get made. So, oh gosh, 18 days to go. Could it get any crazier?